welcome to Optics, featured artist in the Griffin Gallery at WinCam. We're happy to be back after our hiatus, which was due to the pandemic. My name is Paula Tognarelli. I'm the Executive Director and Curator of the Griffin Museum of Photography, which is in Winchester, Massachusetts. The Griffin Museum operates several satellite galleries in Massachusetts, including right here in Winchester at WinCam at 32 Swanton Street. Our featured artist today is Tira Khan. Tira is a mid-career photographer whose work has been showcased across the United States and internationally. The work that is featured in our gallery is A Place I Never Knew. I hope you enjoy our conversation today about Tira's career and projects. So, I'd like to open up our discussion today with your recent project and your travels. I'm wondering why you chose to go to Rampur, I believe you called it. Can you tell me a little bit about your reasons behind the trip?
So my father was born in London to Indian parents, and I'd always wondered about my Indian heritage and that side of my family. So I hadn't had much chance to visit India before. He took me and my family in 2013. That was when my kids were a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had the opportunity to return with my cousin and his family in 2019. And we stayed in the city where my grandparents were born and raised. Mm-hmm. And so it was great to be able to go back. Actually, at the time, it was sort of a last-minute trip, and I had a broken foot. So I wasn't very mobile, and I didn't really know people there. So after that trip, I just wanted to know if there was enough to go back and do a photography project on the city. It's called Rampur, and it's in Uttar Pradesh, mm-hmm. about 4 hours northeast of Delhi. Mm-hmm. So after I came back from my trip with my cousin, I really wanted to do a project on this place, but I didn't really know how to begin. And I didn't know many people there. My uncles still lived in the ancestral home, but I wasn't sure how to approach it. So I decided to apply for a master class with the 7 Photo Agency, which specializes in documentary photography, mm-hmm. and media and journalism. And I was accepted and to this master class. So over the course of a year, I worked on this project and thought about how to approach it, went over the photographs. And so me and 20 other photographers from around the world, we met in Barcelona 3 times over the course of a year. And that also gave me a reason that I had to make a trip to return. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, things get put off. It's far to go from here. It's expensive. You know, I didn't really know many people to really say, I'm visiting so-and-so. Mm-hmm. So I needed a reason to go. Mm-hmm. And so that became my reason. Mm-hmm. And from that trip, I created most of this mm-hmm. series.
So you didn't travel alone. You had your cousin, or did you just travel there and you were on your own in the land?
So what happened is, so I traveled with my cousin originally, and then I wanted to coordinate a trip with other family members mm-hmm. or other people, but no one could go. Mm-hmm. So I did end up going alone. Mm-hmm. I got the name, somebody recommended a driver, so I hired a driver. And, but then I visited, I knew my uncle was in Rampur, mm-hmm. but other than that, I didn't really know who I would meet, what I would do, what my day was going to be like, and mm-hmm. I just had to sort of see what happened mm-hmm. a little bit. And
how did that feel to be alone in a, well, not a strange land, because you must have knew about your family there, but to go solo in an unknown place?
Well, I was a little nervous about safety because you do hear a lot about India being particularly unsafe for women. So that was one of the reasons I got a driver. I do like to travel, and I don't mind traveling alone a lot. I like sort of adventure. I love figuring things out during the day. I just always like having someone to eat dinner with.
Yeah.
Other than that, I can.
Did you find people to have dinner with?
I did.
Oh, good.
I got invited a few places. Right. I had dinner. I could even eat with my driver. So as long as I had something social that I could do, it was. I enjoy that.
Yeah.
But it is a little, it's a little scary sometimes.
I notice about the work you took multiple perspectives. You did portraits of the people. You photographed architecture, and then you also photographed these intimate scenes. All intentional, or is this how you edited at the end?
Well, some of it was different. Like it's because I wasn't from there. I didn't know people as well. I wanted to capture the architecture. For one, because I knew that was there and I knew it was beautiful, and I wanted to sort of explore that as seeing the city as a place. And then I loved the way that the people, when I had asked them if I could take their picture, they had a really nice way of presenting themselves. It's very different from American selfie culture.
Yep.
And nobody like smiled. They just held themselves very dignified looking, and I found it as sort of a formality in the poses, and it was very refreshing for me because I'm used to doing more spontaneous documentary. People don't even know I'm looking at them, and very casual in the U.S. So it was a really nice contrast for me, and I didn't do as many street scenes. So some of it was really what I was drawn to. There and
how did it feel finding your family roots or your dad's roots?
Yeah.
Did it change your thinking about him and his family and your family?
Well, I think it affected. When I was young, growing up, I always looked a little different. So people would ask, where I was from, and if I was Indian, to tell. I wanted to know more, and I never really knew that much about my Indian heritage. So I think going there and learning more about the city, and then I also researched, about my ethnic lineage, which is Pathan, and there's a lot of texts written about that as well. So I feel more comfortable. Knowing that, and it was also in a way, it's not like my father, he grew up in an Indian household. He only spoke Urdu until he was 7. But he didn't really bring a lot of that with him when he moved to the US. So it wasn't, I feel like it was sort of connected to him, and maybe I was trying to find his roots, but it wasn't like he could have been exploring just as well. It's not like he knew it well. Yeah. Although his brothers were there, grew up there.
Yeah. Have you made it a point to discuss this background with your children, to bring them up to date on their ancestral roots? Is that something that you do with your children and your family? My family never did. I can never tell you as far back further than my grandparents. So I'm wondering about you and how you bring that forward into the future.
So it's funny because I think my kids are not as interested. They're sort of interested in it, but it's really some of my other relatives and relatives in London that are more interested in the family, and my mother's interested. Yeah. I think some of the interest might come from age as well. My kids are, 23 and under, and so it's part of their lives. The other piece that was really amazing that my father did, which I probably never would have done this project, is he took my family, my kids, and my brother's family to India and really gave us an amazing tour and overview of the whole place. So that's really, had he not done that, then I would never have done this.
Right. Are you done with this work?
No, I mean, I feel like this chapter is done, but I would love to go back. Obviously, COVID has hurt the chances of going back anytime soon. But but the other thing is, because I couldn't go, I've started reworking some of the ideas and making some. For me, photography is a way to sort of process what I'm thinking about and a way to understand things. So I am also doing these collages that I started with pieces that are meaningful to me. Like I have one that's up in the other room of my hand.
Yes.
And it's my hand, and it's wearing a ring that was given to me by the Nawab's daughter-in-law. That's a whole other story. But anyways, it's a special ring, and it's the text over it is from the newspaper in the 1930s that my uncle found that announces my grandfather's appointment as physician to the Nawab, which was the Prince of Rampur. So anyway, so just it's a different way to find meaning.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought up your collages, because I'd like to talk about those too. I see a similarity between the collages and the work you did in India, mainly using different perspectives, but I see them having layers. I also see them as having such poetry. The images are absolutely beautiful. Your collages I've always loved. You're communicating in a way that is more metaphor, more emotional in the collages. But do you see the similarities that I see in the two bodies of work?
You mean of the documentary and then the collage?
Yeah, yes.
Of this collage?
Yeah.
I like to think, I mean, I love documentary, and I love just, taking what's there and not, manipulating the scene, just sort of like showing people or photographing what is real. But then I also love the, and I think you're right, because I do have other series that the collages are very different from my documentary, and I feel like with these collages and these documentary, they kind of go together.
They do.
And can complement each other. And I also do a little bit of video, and so I'd love to add just a little bit of video and just sort of different ways to approach one topic.
Well, I love that you wanted to add that almost like curtain-like image that's the collage into the, it wasn't in my original sequence and you thought about it later. I think it adds to the show as well. What's next? Not the next question, what's next for you in your career in photography?
Well, one piece that I became really interested in when I was researching Rampur, it was a lot of documents were accessible. I could find a lot of old photographs and texts in the British Museum because of British colonial rule, and so they had a lot of the documents, or they were gifts to the British. And so when I was in London, I looked and I saw all these amazing old photographs. I'm not even sure what processes they were. And also because I was so interested in the history, that I've sort of thought about using a historical photography technique in my next series, which I've been learning photogravure. And so I want to I'm not sure if I'm going to do, I like the idea of using a historic technique and then creating something more modern from that. So I think seeing all those photographs and realizing that, I never thought I really liked history, but when I look back at everything, I think there is something that I really like about the old, but also I feel like needs something new on top of it. So I've been working on that. It's
Yeah.
a lot harder than I thought.
Well, you know, when I think back of all your work, even the work in the home that the Historical Society had you at, you were examining history. I think you've finally found, you've put a name to it. What you're doing is to not only explore your past, but others' past, and how important it is to look back, to look forward. I'm wondering if there's something else that I haven't asked you that you would like to get out to our audience today, or talk about something that you think that it may be of interest to them, whether it's in this body of work or in future bodies of work, or it's up to you.
Well, I think a strength of mine is that I like to explore, but that's also a weakness because I can want to, I can get bored. So I like that, so I've done this India, seeing the documentary, but I want to make it more interesting for me. Mm-hmm. So that's why I enjoy adding these other layers to it. Mm-hmm. So, and right now I'm going into this photogravure, and it's actually polymer.
Oh, good. Safe.
Gravure or something. But, and so it's a little bit in printmaking. So I want to make sure that it's all, cohesive. Mm-hmm. So I think that's, I know that wasn't the question. Maybe I should just take all that out because I'm just talking about weaknesses. But I don't know that there's anything specific because I just feel like I'm always looking for something new. But it's interesting now at a midpoint in my career because now I look at things and I'm like, oh, there is a little bit of a pattern. Mm-hmm. When I first started things, I'd have one very documentary series and one collage, and they seemed so different. Mm-hmm. And now I feel like they're all coming closer together. Mm-hmm. And so it's really interesting. And I feel really lucky to be able to do this.
So where has your career gone? You've gone, I first met you at the Griffin Museum in the atelier that we do there. Uh-huh. But you have grown and blossomed so much since I first met you. Can you tell us a little bit about where you've been?
Well, the Griffin Museum has been very instrumental to my growth as an artist, I think.
That's nice to say.
Yeah, when I first started photography, actually I took a community ed class in my city, and I wanted to learn how to use a camera. And then from there, I took one other class, and then someone recommended, you could look into the Griffin Museum. Yeah. So, and I had come from a journalism background and writing, and then I was doing a little video. So this was a very different experience for me. And I loved the atelier classes, and I learned so much from, taking those. And I really enjoyed the photo community. Yeah. And it was just a really nice way to grow with people and discuss your work and discuss all those ridiculous things that you obsess about that nobody else wants to hear. Right. And so basically I went from there, and I feel like because I love the journalism, I wanted to also do photojournalism, and I've been really fortunate, been able to do some of that as a freelancer. It's not a lot. I think that the whole business has changed, so it's a little harder to get regular work, but at the same time, I'm able to pursue my personal photography. That's been really amazing, and I feel really lucky that I found something that I enjoy and want to keep doing. Mm-hmm.
Is there anything in the pipeline as far as future exhibitions?
Nothing at the moment. I was just in the Photographic Resource Center's exposure.
Exposure, yeah. And
I don't have anything else planned at the moment. Oh, I know. Actually, I just got into the Indian Photo Festival. Oh. Yeah, so I was really excited about that.
That is something.
So that was, it looked like it was a competitive competition, and I was like, really nice for me to know that people in India might be interested in my work. So that was pretty cool.
Well, Tira, I want to say it's been a pleasure knowing you over the years and watching your career. And you know I'm retiring. I am going to miss the photographers and I'm going to miss you. And I wish you tremendous success in your upcoming career in the future.
Okay, well, Paula, this is only the beginning.
This is only the beginning.
Yeah. And yes, and you know, you've taken the Griffin to, you know, an amazing place, and it's been very supportive of community artists, which I think is really important. And so I'm very excited because it's not just that I'm having an exhibit; it's that I've been selected by the Griffin Museum to have my exhibit here. So that's what makes it really special.
And thank you for joining us for this episode of Optics, our featured artist in the Griffin Gallery at Windcam. A Place I Never Knew by photographer Tira Khan will be on display in this gallery from September 23rd to November 29th and is free and open to the public during Windcam's regular hours of operation. For more information, though, on the Griffin Gallery at Windcam, or other programs offered at either the Griffin Museum or at Windcam, please feel free to call the museum or email the museum at any time. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure.